Hello and welcome everyone back to another presentation here in our Power in Partnership Master Series. I invite us all to begin in our usual and customary fashion by just bringing ourselves back to the present moment by paying attention to our breath just for a few moments. So if you're willing and able to lower your gaze or close your eyes, inhaling in what has already happened. And exhaling completely, letting go. And inhaling any future thoughts, letting them pass through, and exhaling, letting go even more completely. And then inhaling as you breathe in the sweetness of this moment right here, right now. Once again, feeling the ever-present presence of gravity, and exhaling, letting go of that. And as I love to do at the beginning of my time with people is to invite us into a bow, just to honor that connection, the wisdom, the alchemy that we create in the space between. And I haven't introduced my guest yet, but I would love to invite her to join me in a bow. Thank you. And now I will introduce my dear guest, Kelley Kosow. She's a wonderful transformational agent. As I get to know Kelley and read more about her, talk with her more, and learn all the different ways her DNA is out there making positive change in the world. As a kick-ass coach, as an author of The Integrity Advantage, as the CEO of the Ford Institute, really helping people on so many different levels. Oh, I want to get this quote down. I loved it so much. Upgrading people's lives on a cellular level. I'd like to introduce Kelley.
Hi, well, I'm thrilled to be here.
Yes.
Just thrilled to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else you'd like to add to your bio, or is that sum it up for now?
Okay. I think that sums it up.
Great. Well, thank you for joining us today as we explore more of the power of the partnership, the space between, things that might get in the way, things that might help us. And as I do, I'd love to offer a few sentence stems to launch us here. And the first being, as I'm sitting here, I'm experiencing.
Just joy, total joy.
Experiencing joy. Wonderful. And so that kind of tethers us to the moment, and then that far-reaching perspective of where I'd like to be at the end of my career, where I'm headed, what sparks joy to keep me going. You're having that joy now. What keeps you going there? Where would you like to be?
Well, what keeps me going is really, what keeps me going is to be able to stay in a really authentic conversation. I just feel like people are dying. You know, people all want to be the silence breakers, and people are dying to be seen, to be known, to be visible, and to use their voice. So to do anything I can to support that conversation, to ignite that conversation, to act as a role model for other people to be totally real in a conversation, so we all can step into our fullest expression of who we are, and also self-expression, self-acceptance, that we can have compassion and for ourselves as well as others.
Yeah. Wonderful. What I'm really hearing is that silence breakers, that ability to just step more fully into ourselves.
Yes.
You find that opens the doors to greater compassion, self-acceptance, self-possessiveness in a way.
And authenticity, which leads to intimacy, which leads to partnerships.
Right. The stepping stones in that direction of embracing our authentic selves. That's what keeps you going. And at the end of your career, what would you like to see? What transformation, or what?
I just, if you can create that ripple effect, if you can create that one place, that one thought, or that transforms one person's life, to me, you've done a good job. If you're really standing in that, and then whatever that ripple effect is, but if you can make a difference, if you can serve or support or help people live more authentically alive, then you've done a good job.
Yeah. One little seed planted.
Yeah.
come to fruition, that ripple effect of
Yes,
change through families, through generations, I imagine.
exactly.
Yeah, great. And you're already hinting at it, but I'll just go ahead and offer the sentence stem. One thing I appreciate about my career.
That it's given me an opportunity to become unrecognizable and step into a life that I never could have dreamed of and am awed by.
Okay. So becoming someone you didn't know you were, is that what I'm hearing?
I never, if someone would said, okay, it's like, let's make a deal, door number 1, door number 2, door number 3, which is going to be your life? I would have never picked door number 3. And of course, because our egos are limited, or what we know, we only know from the past, or what our mothers did, or people around us was doing. So my career, and of course, probably my pain that brought me to my career, or the path that brought me to the career, it has given me a life beyond anything I could have imagined. In a way that I would have in areas that I'd never imagined.
Yeah. Yeah. So that sense of the transformation, that you couldn't have guessed it, you couldn't have dreamed it, you couldn't have scripted it out. I
couldn't have planned it better, I mean,
right.
Or someone couldn't have planned it better, or something couldn't have planned it better.
Right.
And so like, oh, you get where you're supposed to be. Wow, who knew? And if you just kind of listen and stay out of the way, you'll get there quicker.
Right. I'm hearing a whole lot of gratitude for the journey. And I heard, the pain, whatever, the catalyst was to prompt you in a different direction. You were a successful lawyer. Is that correct?
I was a lawyer. And then I had 3 kids really quickly. And so it was always, I grew up in Boston, and it was very much about education, and which of course I love. So, I went to Brown, and then I went to law school, and then I worked as a lawyer, and then I got married. It was like that checklist of life that I just followed. Okay, these are the things that I am supposed to do on my checklist of life. And I really never thought about, when you had kids, it was like, okay, checklist, and now I'll be a mom. But then it was like, I can't just be not just be a mom, but it was then something else took over, and something else took over. And it was an amazing ride.
Yeah. Sounds like the external events and the checklist also invited some sort of deeper inner transformation in order to.
Well, exactly. I mean, just life unfolded. And so it was great. It was great.
Yeah. Great. And what's one thing that you think you can do, Kelley, to help get you to that place of continuing to plant seeds of transformation for the ripple effect in the future?
For me personally?
For you personally, or in your career? We had focused.
I think for me, it's always whatever I'm experiencing, really getting that there's no one out there. And so this is all happening for my evolution. And so really standing in that, what am I supposed to be learning? What am I supposed to be seeing? What am I supposed to be grokking from this situation? So always using whatever is in the space, for me to see myself, and for me to peel back that next layer, and, what am I supposed to be learning? What am I supposed to be embracing? Kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I had the good fortune of talking with you earlier in the month, and hearing you say there is no out there. That line has been rippling. You've had that ripple effect in my mind, because I've been saying it to my in-laws. I've been saying it.
It's truly all happening for your evolution. Yeah. And because if the goal of the soul is to grow and evolve, then everything happening is to support that. Yeah. And so if you look at life as this amazing schoolroom, and I love being a student, so I'm in a good place.
Yeah. Yeah. So in that sense, that continuity of being a lifelong learner has carried you into this place of curiosity of what is
and looking through that lens of, okay, this is all happening for the evolution of my soul. Yeah. So why did I cross that person? Why are they in my life? Why is, the toilet bowl flooding? Every little thing going, if it's all happening, what is this? And sometimes you can just have a toilet bowl of flood. But, other times it's like, okay, because I've been doing 2,000 things at once and, I stepped over this or that, or I ran out, And so really getting, what am I supposed to be seeing in this moment?
Mm-hmm. What does the soul need to grow? How is this
Yes.
opportunity presented? Yeah. So let's weave that into the partnership perspective of when people are in partnership. How do you see that evolution of the soul playing out? What, maybe if you had one tool just right off the bat that you could offer to our audience in terms of tending to that space between?
Well, it's really the concept of projection, but if there's only a few ways we're able to learn and see ourselves. And so the universe is always giving us feedback, and it sends us it puts us in situations, and it also, it sends us messengers, and it also sends us the messengers. Mm-hmm. And the messengers are the people in our lives. And that the people in our lives, because if you do have a room full of people, the old saying is true, in a room full of people, the only one who can't see you is you. And so how do you see yourself? Through the reflection of relationship. And so all your relationships are there to show you you. They're there to rip off the Band-Aids that we've put on, kind of some of our childhood wounds from the past, or things we've wanted to avoid. So the people in our life act as our most magnificent mirrors. And the ones that are closest to us are perfectly positioned. And so generally when you start off, and I was having this conversation with someone the other day, when we fall in love with someone because we can't see ourselves or are in awe of someone, we're projecting our light. It's something in ourselves that we're not owning. So if all of a sudden I'm in love and, oh my gosh, they're so kind and they're so sexy and they're so brilliant, and I fall in love with their minds, it's because I'm projecting on them light I'm not owning in myself. Mm. And so with our work, I sit there, it's a terrible thing, it's not the most romantic thing, and I'm sitting in myself going, I could be dating going, what am I projecting on them in this moment? And they're like, oh, what are you thinking? And I was thinking, if they only knew what I was thinking, like, what's the light I need to own back from you? Like the least romantic thing at all. But that's where my mind goes, because it's all a classroom. And so when you're a trance of projection, you don't see yourself, and you're in trance. You're just like in awe. But what are you in awe of? Really yourself. You're just projecting it on that person. Right. Because you're in awe of their light that you're not owning.
Right.
And then of course, what happens in relationships? So we fall in love with our light, which we don't see in ourselves. And then at some point with the trance, we come out of our trance, which happens in relationships. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, what do we start seeing? The stuff, the dark, our negative that we have disowned. So all of a sudden, we're not looking at their brilliance, and then we're going, oh, what a slob. Oh, they're so boring. Oh, they're so practical. Whatever it is that we don't like in ourselves, or don't want to be, or have shame around. Mm-hmm. And so then, we start being triggered, because it's the difference between being informed and affected. If I'm just looking at my partner sitting on the couch and going, oh, you're so lazy, then I'm just being informed. If I look at him and I'm thinking, oh my God, he is so lazy and he's driving me crazy, it's because I don't own laziness in myself. I've made that part of me wrong. Mm-hmm. And so getting that now I'm looking at the dark, and those are also places I want to own, or characteristics I want to own, because of course the goal of the soul is to be whole. Mm-hmm. And so they show me, they're just holding up a mirror. It's like, holding up signs, own this, own that, own that. So our partnerships, they're like an amazing treasure hunt. Yeah. Back to yourself and to all the treasure within you that you're not seeing because you have that lid on.
Right, right. Oh, Kelley, I love that. They're holding up a sign that says, own this, own this.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's literally, and it's not just romantic. So my friend I was talking to yesterday, and she got in a deal with a woman, and a business deal, and it was because, and like I was there when she met her, and I'm thinking, oh my God, what are you doing?
Mhm.
And I said to her, I don't see it. And I don't, but because she didn't own successful businesswoman and those qualities, she projected on this woman. She was in awe of this woman. She didn't, just because she was so in awe, she didn't necessarily check her out, because she was just in awe of her light and everything she was saying. And then go to find out, wasn't exactly what it was. And so, she wanted to talk, like, why? And we went through this whole thing, that there was something that she was projecting on her, that she projected so much light that she couldn't see.
Right.
And now it's time for her to own she is a successful businesswoman.
Right.
And
Right.
so really getting that.
Yeah. Yeah. So really getting that, what you spot, you've got, whether
Yeah,
it's the
you
good,
spot it, you
bad.
got it, good
Yeah.
and bad.
Yeah. And then how do we use that in the relational space? I mean, is there any way to go back to what you started with, of being a silence breaker in the relational space and somehow owning that? Or is it more of an inside job? What's your
Well, it
opinion?
is more. I mean, I love when I see, so I run the Ford Institute, like you said, and I do this amazing workshop called the Shadow Process, which Debbie Ford founded and started. And I just have the privilege, along with my team, of still running it. And a lot of times we have families and we have couples. And to me, it's the most magnificent thing to see people understand about projection and realize, okay, they just didn't come into my life to totally piss me off. They're just there to really show. So when you have people standing in that level of responsibility, it's an amazing thing to see. And so when you see couples who are in this conversation, and you don't have to be in the same conversation. The man I go out with now, he doesn't know anything about this, honestly. He's read my book, but he still doesn't really understand. And I've given up trying to coach people that I date.
Right.
But I can still look at him and say, what are the characteristics in him that I adore? And how do I need to own those more fully in me? And what are the characteristics in him that piss me off or trigger me a little bit? So that I can find the gifts in those as well, so I can embrace those. And so you don't necessarily need to be in the conversation with your partner. Now, when people are, then they're able to say, look, I get it. I am projecting, cheap on you. I am projecting lazy on you. I am projecting selfish on you. And I get that I have to do my work around being selfish or something like that. And so, you can be more in a conversation, or the person will say, well, what are you projecting on me?
Mhm.
And that might, change the whole flow of whatever's happening in the moment. And so, but no, I mean, this really is, if you're in the conversation, you don't necessarily have to work it out in the relationship. And when people come to me, when they're not sure, do I stay in a relationship or not? You want to support them of making that decision from a place of wholeness, not from a place of reactiveness. And so that's why it's so important to really, if you understand and if you agree with these concepts, to do your work around whatever's coming up in a relationship. Because I have seen people totally transform their relationships just through this conversation and the understanding of projection.
Right. Right. What I'm hearing is, it may not need to be spelled out in terms of having an actual conversation, but having the awareness, recognizing it when it's happening, reclaiming one's wholeness by embracing the good, the bad, the ugly, all of the above, and being able to recognize, I love to think that conflict is growth trying to happen, and that my partner is handing me a pot of gold. That's mining right there. It's that sign you were talking about of, own this, own this. And that, I imagine, can be so transformative in terms of, as you said earlier, that self-awareness, self-acceptance, ability to soften and have a more compassionate heart to oneself. And then from that, the ripple effect to others.
Yes. And the other thing you see, because granted, all our many of our beliefs and our thoughts, especially about self, are, and our wounds come in before the age of 10.
Yeah.
You know, they're there in our unconscious. So a lot of times, you know, the partner comes in only to kind of, like I said, rip the Band-Aid, or to bring those wounds up back to surface so they can heal whatever childhood issues are. So, you know, it's so, you know, we hear it all the time. You know, I married my father, or my mother, and I recreated my childhood. And yes, because it's time to heal that childhood. So, you know, I see all the time with couples how their wounds almost fit like puzzle pieces. So, you know, the man with the fear of commitment will always find with a woman with the fear of abandonment. And of course, it goes back to their childhood situations. But ultimately, the person with the fear of abandonment needs to stop abandoning themselves and putting someone else first. And the person with the fear of commitment needs to start feeling safe that they can step forward. But until they get that, it's like, you know, they're that little Punch and Judy show, you know, don't abandon me, don't abandon me. And it's like, and then they run away because they're like feeling this noose around their neck.
Right.
So it's so 2 points. A, it's amazing to see how your wounds fit together like puzzle pieces with the partners you draw in, because they are there to kind of rip that Band-Aid off. And 2, of course, what really needs to be healed are the events and the beliefs and the wounds from childhood.
Yeah, I really hear that opportunity for the childhood wounding to be healed in the relational space. And I think so much of the time, what I've witnessed in my work with people, and I'm curious your experience, is people think this just isn't the right relationship. Got to go find it somewhere else. And it's that old notion of wherever you go, there you are.
There you are. You know, you bring yourself to every party. And actually, it's the perfect relationship, because, you know, it's like the person who lived in a home where no one ever really had any emotional intelligence, or no one talked about their feelings, or they didn't talk at all. You know, they're going to be in a relationship with someone who all of a sudden is going to, like, you know, trigger them so they have to speak. Or they're going to want, you know, I need you to say something, like I need to have and it's because they need to learn to start speaking, you know, being able to say, this is how I feel. And so it's just amazing to me how the universe blows me away all the time. And how you do attract these situations, because ultimately it's your work. You need to learn to speak up. You need to learn to share your truth. You need to learn to set boundaries. You need to learn to stop putting others in front of yourself.
Right. Yeah, the universe is honorable and giving those opportunities.
It's always giving us feedback, and it really is, you know, the most benevolent partner and teacher.
Yeah, it is. And this fits so perfectly with the idea of this Power and Partnership series in terms of growing a conscious partnership. Because what you're suggesting, I think, are higher level functioning indicators in the relational space, to be able to do your own work, to have the awareness to spot it when it's out there, and to really cultivate that compassionate heart. And, you know, I love to remind couples, you know, choosing to see your partner as the enemy is a choice. And choosing to want to vaporize your partner, you get to ask yourself, is that really going to get me where I want to go?
Exactly.
Or do I get to embrace that curiosity? I mean, so much of what you're sharing, Kelley, is just this, let me surrender to the teacher of the universe and be curious. What does this have to offer me? What does this have to offer me? And then,
and Debbie Ford did write the most amazing book, Spiritual Divorce, and it's really about relationships. And it is really about looking at those relationships as a way to see yourself and grow yourself. And, you know, you are right. So many people, they, you know, not only they're just always looking for what's wrong instead of looking what's right in their partnership and, of course, in themselves. But when you start looking at relationship, you know, for me, I went to couples therapy back in the day, and we walked out always feeling worse, because all it was is like slinging hash at each other. Was terrible. And, that's why when I work with couples, it's really having them first, starting separately, having them understand these concepts so they can really get, wow, this person is here for my evolution, and then start having these conversations together. And I think the most, because you're also talking about couples, but for me, I've been single and I've been in relationship, without a relationship. And I always, after a relationship ends, it's like pushing yourself away from the buffet table or the poker table. I don't know. I don't go away, but you got to walk away from the table and like, where am I in this? I had a pretty heavy breakup a few years ago, and I just went, okay, I need to take a break. And when I did that, I really focused on, if my relationships are a reflection of me and what's going on inside of me, what did I still need to heal?
Mm-hmm.
And what did I need to claim? And when and really, where did I need to become more healthy?
Mm-hmm.
And so, because I only wanted to attract healthy relationships and healthy people. And even though, I work out and I eat well, but where still was that unhealthy thing that was attracting that? And when I put out in the, I'm only going to accept healthy. When I declared that I am healthy and I only want that, I attracted that.
Mm.
And so for even people watching this, whether you're in or not in a relationship, it's always about doing your own work and knowing that your outer world is a reflection of your inner world. If all my relationships are getting dramatic, getting chaotic, then I have to say, how is that in me? That it's being reflected in stereo in the outer world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that you keep bringing it back to that inner work that needs to be done.
Yes.
In relational, tending to that, it's the both and. And
yes,
I once heard you say, God didn't give us any spare parts. Is that something that you've said before?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of my favorite lines because it goes back to wholeness. And so many of us think, oh, I only want to be, I want to be smart. I want to be this. I want to be that. And they don't realize that every characteristic and every emotion has a gift. It can be in our toolbox, and it might be that one day, I need to be my angry self. I need to be my selfish self. I need to be my mean self, whatever that is to me. Mm-hmm. And so we want to, if you disown something and I can't be that, you have no access to it. Mm-hmm. And so the God didn't give us any spare parts is because at any time, any emotion, any quality might serve us. Yeah. And so we want to be able to have access for it, because every quality in you is in me, and everything I see in the universe is in me, and vice versa.
Right, right. So is it safe to say that with that notion of there are no spare parts, everything's out there, that we get to, even when we invoke in the healthiest relationships, even when we do our own personal work, that at least my understanding is it's not a linear process of I've arrived, I've graduated, I only have healthy, happy, joyful around me. But we learn how to allow all those parts. There are no spare parts. We have access to them in that conscious realm of lowering the reactivity, having more responsibility, being able to really, as you just keep saying over and over again, seeing these opportunities as lessons. And so how would you define healthy relations, I guess is my
for me, healthy relationship, a healthy relationship, that the person is a healthy person, that the person, takes responsibility, can have conversations, obviously no addictions, that they're taking responsibility for their life, their emotional world, their health, all that stuff. Yeah. That they are in a healthy place, taking responsibility on all levels of their life. So they're not the victim of their circumstances. They're not numbing out, spacing out, doing whatever. And they're in integrity and with themselves, and they can be in integrity in a relationship.
Yeah. And they're experiencing that transformation on a cellular level. And
they're opening to learning. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. There's no such thing. And some people think, oh, well, I did my work, or I've been in a course for a year, I need to be done. But no,
Right.
There's always that next level. There's always that next level of consciousness. There's always the next lesson. There's always that next evolution of self. Anytime I lead a workshop, I personally love it, or do anything, write an article, whatever, because I know I am going to learn something that's going to create me to have something's going to shift in here that will create a bigger possibility out there. Yeah. So I never want to be able to say I'm done.
Yeah.
Yes, I might have gotten to another level, had another aha, but there's no such thing as done, because then my possibilities would be capped, and that's not fun.
Right. Yeah, I really got that sense when I was curious about where you want to be at the end of your career. You didn't say, well, I want to be retired for 20 years and not engaging with anyone else. It's that place of continuing to be that positive.
Yeah. We have no idea what's around the corner. And if you're always getting that there's an invitation in every moment, an invitation in front of you. I just see them like little miracles dancing around. And at any time we can, say yes to that invitation. Who knows what's possible?
Yeah. Well, with that, I'm gonna wrap it around as we wrap up our interview. Thank you for saying yes to my invitation to this presentation. It was just such an immediate, clear, yes, I'm in, let's do this thing. And it just, to me, it was that honorable universe, just as we're pulling these resources together, bringing the experts who've had the experience of personal transformation, had the experience of transforming other people's lives. How do we become the silence breakers and really step into our whole selves and let go of, that romantic phase of our brains being hijacked by all the good chemical cascade of, the drug of love. And when we wake up to the reality of, okay, let's still do this thing, even when life gets lifey, as I like to say.
Yeah. And people get people-y.
People get people-y. Absolutely.
Yeah, people get people-y. Yeah. And realizing that, truly the privilege of relationship, it's amazing.
Yeah. Well, I'm honoring the privilege of being able to interview you today, Kelley. I look forward to the possibility of future collaboration as we explore this and get this out there more and more to the world. And I just am curious if you'd like to introduce a free offering, a gift to our audience today for listening.
So we want to give a shadow talk call. It's a 1-hour process. It's a conversation, and then we do an internal exercise. And we're going to give you the shadow of relationships. And so that people can, learn a little bit more about these concepts, and then do an internal process to just see whatever's there, so they can open up to a little more understanding about themselves and relationship.
Great. That sounds like a perfect companion to our conversation today in terms of exploring more of the shadow work. We'll have all the details of that listed out in the email information that gets sent out. So thank you so much, Kelley. I invite us to close with our bow, just to honor that wisdom that we create in that space between, allowing the head to drop to the level of the heart, which in our hustle and bustle culture, we don't do very often. And you definitely inspire me to embrace my whole self and see the world as an opportunity to keep learning. So thank you for that reminder.